In every organization, there's one group holding the whole operation together. Not the top, not the bottom, the middle. Today, three of the sharpest minds in middle management step up to the mic. Sally Foley-Lewis, Jeff Sigel, and Lisa Robyn Wood. Each brings a different lens, one shared mission. Decode what it really takes to lead from the middle with confidence, clarity, and impact. Same questions, three perspectives. Get ready for insight that cuts through the noise and goes straight to the operational heartbeat of your organization. Let's dive in.
I think there's a lot of confusion about middle management and the middle layer simply because of the complexity of it. I think it is not recognised for what it actually is there to do. And because it is so multifaceted in its nature and the expectation actually on the role, I think it is quite difficult for people to really engage with it. I think when you're in the middle, your touch points of communication are many. You have the ability to, on the day-to-day in the operation, interact with many of those who are right in the thick of the detail, right in the doing, and therefore you have to have a grip and an understanding of those roles and what's involved in that responsibilities piece. That's quite complex in itself. Then you also have to have that appreciation and knowledge and awareness of your peers and what's going on around you in your teams that you're collaborating with, that you're equally supporting, that are necessary for your own performance and delivery. You have to have an understanding of the complexity of those roles, and then you also have to have that strategic awareness. You have to be close to the vision, the direction of the business, the strategy overall, the vision, and all of your stakeholders' direction and what they're aiming for. So there are so many complex touch points, from a communication point of view, but then also from an information, the volume of information that's involved. And I just think at times, in middle management, if you're doing that role extremely well, like I think many roles, but I think if you're doing that role extremely well, and acknowledging your boundaries, the delegation points, in other words, managing yourself well to do the job successfully, and reasonably, because there's a lot of a load there in that space. People can be very dismissive of it and be very quick to oversimplify it and its necessity and what's involved. But actually it is very complicated. And look, we don't like complicated, I don't think. I think when there's like a lot to know, a lot to learn, a lot to understand, and it appears quite difficult to access, I think we're quick to just dismiss it. But I do think that's where that misunderstanding comes from. You take that away, the middle manager is the linchpin, you take that away and you watch how quickly everything falls apart, then you'll understand why it's so critical.
Role confusion, I think, hits the middle because organisations keep stacking expectations on without really resetting some scope. So often in conversations with middle managers, you're hearing that there's a lot of role ambiguity and also a bit of identity confusion with what is expected in the role. And this leaves middle managers carrying strategy, execution, and the emotional labour of flipping between both without really the clear mandates that should go with it. Add into this shifting priorities, constant change, often this matrix reporting, blurred authority lines, all the responsibility without enough authority to match that. And that's just, to me, is the perfect storm where everyone assumes that the middle will figure it out. And bless them, they often do. But there's no real defining what it actually is. And I think that's why there's a bit of confusion around what is the role of the middle. And of course, there are so many different sizes and shapes of organisations that have middles, and those middles look different. And I think it's really important that an organisation looks within itself and helps to define it for itself in its own context. If we take communication, just communication on its own for a middle manager, and you think about strategy, execution, and that emotional labour, if you have a middle manager, their job is to inspire down, to engage, to help clarify, to help translate strategy. And then they've got also an opportunity like no one else in the organisation to collaborate across, to look for cost efficiencies, to share opportunities, to tap into resources and support left and right. And then also middle managers have to take the information that they are gathering and analysing from the front line and from their peers in order to influence up so that strategy is well informed, is better informed, is not blindly delivered. And then for middle managers to be able to pivot, I know we don't like that word thanks to COVID, but for middle managers to be able to pivot from inspiring to collaborating to influencing and back again, that emotional toll on a middle manager needs to be considered. And so I think it's really a complex role, as Lisa has said. It's not easy. And, wait to hear Jeff's point of view about the development and the training of middle managers too. This is an interesting question.
I think the confusion about middle management actually starts from the fact that we have almost a generational gap in training people how to be great middle managers. There was so much, basically cost cutting and so forth over the last couple of decades that we don't train middle managers. In fact, we tend to train middle managers who are like high potentials, but we don't train everyone in what middle management is. And the result of that is that you now have a senior leadership layer who was never really properly trained to be great middle managers. So people come up the ranks, they are great accountants, they go from being a great accountant to be a manager of accountants. They don't understand what the middle management role is. The people above them aren't role modeling that for them. And the people at the very top of the organizations look and go, well, middle management is just an unnecessary layer because all they do is transmit orders from us, at the top down to the rank and file at the bottom of the corporate hierarchy. And what's missing here is just an understanding of what it is that the middle management layer does. The middle management layer is responsible for conveying strategy, for inspiring people, to give people a sense of purpose, to make sure that processes are right, to make sure that people are properly trained, to make sure that the right people are in the right places, all those things that are so incredibly important. But if we don't ever tell people that that's what their role is, they don't do it well, and then they become senior leaders who don't think that middle management is important. And that this creates a tremendous amount of confusion at the upper levels of an organization, with the middle managers themselves, who are a little bit like, wait a second, what am I supposed to be doing here? And with the people underneath them who are kind of looking at these middle managers kind of going, this role that my manager is playing doesn't feel right. So I really think that the key is we need to stop, there's all these articles that you hear about people trying to delayer, get rid of the middle managers. I think we need to stop having that conversation and start having the conversation, how do we elevate and get the most out of the middle managers by explaining to them what it is they're supposed to be doing and removing that confusion, rather than trying to sort of figure out what we hear a lot about in the news these days of people trying to delayer and get rid of the middle managers. So that's my take on confusion in the middle.
You've just heard from 3 leaders who have dedicated their careers to strengthening the heartbeat of every organization, the middle. From Cape Town, Lisa Robyn Wood is the middle manager coach. Her own leap into senior middle management sparked the confidence crisis that transformed her life and career. Today, she helps managers rebuild their confidence, sharpen their self-awareness, and thrive through GRIP Coaching's practical, high-impact development programs. Sally Foley-Lewis has spent over 20 years in the trenches and the boardroom, working with more than 20,000 managers across industries and continents. She's a global award-winning speaker, author, and educator who equips managers to be confident, capable, and courageous, and delivers the tools that lift performance fast. Jeff Sigel brings more than 2 decades across global food, grocery, and restaurant giants and a mission to build better workplaces from the inside out. He's a coach, author of The Middle Matters, helping leaders at every level increase their impact. 3 experts, 1 shared passion, helping middle managers succeed where it matters most. Stay connected, keep developing, and keep leading from the middle.